Warframe is one of the best co-op games out there, but starting it is genuinely terrifying. After 13 years of updates, the game now has more systems and features than a jumbo jet. But I finally gave it a try a few weeks ago, and I'll be honest with you, it was completely different from what I expected. So let me show you what the new player experience is like these days, where Warframe completely won me over, where it nearly lost me, and whether it's still worth jumping into today. After my recent experience with Destiny 2, I expected my first few hours to be complete and utter confusion. I mean, there's 13 years of content to catch up on, something that becomes very apparent when you first zoom out and look at the star chart. And that right there, that's basically just the prologue. And so I started out with a very healthy mixture of excitement and existential dread. But that lasted about 30 seconds, because as soon as I went through my usual mash all the buttons and see what happens routine, I discovered I could chain jumps and dashes together to fling myself forward at light speed. That right there was a very good sign. But then I finally stopped faffing about and actually did the tutorial, and then the game taught me I could go even faster. As it turns out, I didn't discover some sort of speedrunning trick. Instead, Warframe is entirely built around you zipping across the levels like a coked up squirrel. And honestly, that immediately put me at ease, as Coke usually does. Because if simply moving around is fun, then the game would have to try really hard to get under my skin. And I'm sure that right there is not foreshadowing anything. So as soon as I learned how, I started bouncing around like a pinball and never stopped. Even during cutscenes where some poor bastard was trying to explain why I needed to go kill absolutely everyone with a pulse again. Now this is where I expected everything to fall apart. I figured the moment the tutorial took the training wheels off, I would do the same thing I did when I first rode a bike. Drive straight into a wall while screaming. Instead, Warframe was oddly well behaved. While it does eventually turn into a mess, for those first 10 to 20 hours, Warframe was an excellent host. The main quest simply walks you through the solar system, one planet at a time, slowly introducing new mechanics as you go. Although maybe slowly isn't the right word, because pretty much every mission had some kind of a new gimmick. One minute I was clearing out a bunch of enemies, then the next I was defending an objective, and then suddenly I find myself in the middle of an escort quest. Something that made me immediately conjure a major sigh born out of 1,000 bad experiences. But you know what? It was actually fine. Apparently, even the civilians in the Warframe world are highly trained space ninjas, so the guy basically flew through the level, barely even taking damage. Honestly, I don't even think he needed escorting. I think he might have just been lonely. Then, as soon as I started thinking I'd figured the game out, the next mission opened with a, no kidding, a robot musical number.
And we all left, and we're all adrift together.
And then it dumped me into a gigantic open world. Do you see all of these planets on the star chart? As I learned, some of them are 10 to 15 minute missions, and some are basically an entire game hiding in plain sight. So despite sinking over 40 hours into the game, I have a very distinct feeling I have barely even scratched the paint, let alone the surface of what Warframe has to offer. This sort of madness extends to your character as well. To say that Warframe has a ton of weapons would be like saying that Mount Everest is kind of tall. Do you see this inventory? This endless pile of blueprints, weapon parts, and random junk is just the very tippy top of the iceberg. Despite swapping my entire loadout every couple of hours just to try new things, I have barely put a dent in my tiny little arsenal. So yeah, there is a lot of weapons out there. A genuinely terrifying amount. But you know what's really surprising? There's very few weapons I would actually call bad. Even the ones I wasn't too happy about mostly boil down to me not wanting to mash my mouse like it owes me money. It doesn't matter if you're using something insane like the staff gun from Stargate or just a plain old bow. Shooting stuff in Warframe just feels good. Especially when the game throws entire armies at you so you can really revel in your power. And that's probably my favorite part about Warframe. Just turning off your brain, putting on horse blinders, and spending the next 10 minutes just ripping and tearing through everything in sight. The sound, the visuals, the endless flow of random junk the game throws at you. It all tickles my lizard brain just right. But all of this chaos starts off nice and innocent. You get a choice between 3 Warframes. A tanky boy, a speedy boy, and a magey boy. Think of them like character classes you can swap between whenever you're not on a mission. Each one comes with 4 unique abilities and plays very differently than all of the others. Naturally, I picked the Magey Boy, who turned out to be a girl called Mag. And let me tell you, I have no regrets. I have tried plenty of other Warframes since then, but nothing comes even close to the satisfaction of throwing a magnetic bubble into a crowd of enemies, watching them all get sucked inside, and then just giggling like an idiot as every bullet they fire just pings right back into their own face. And if you think that's something I might need to unpack with a psychologist, wait till you see what my favorite melee weapon is. It's a pair of oversized cat claws. Once those things get going, it is physically impossible to even track what's happening on the screen. It is just an endless tornado of numbers and body parts. It is glorious. So yeah, going in, I expected Warframe's combat to be fun, but I was not even remotely prepared for how much it would actually consume my life. I saw this message a lot. But I did promise you a mess, so slather yourself in grease and come roll in the mud with me. For those first few hours, Warframe is really good about not overwhelming you with choices. But somewhere around the halfway point, the game just completely loses its mind. Suddenly, I had a dozen different systems all demanding my attention. A giant eyeball wanted me to scan things, random factions expected taxes, Clem wanted his Grakatas, and there were now 2 open worlds begging to be explored. Are any of these important? Even now, I have no bloody idea. This eventually culminated with me going completely freaking insane once I started the Duviri Paradox, a quest that at the very start looked like any other. Except, this one asked me to create a brand new character, which isn't exactly usual for a game to spring on you 30 hours in. And then 5 minutes later, I was going for a tutorial for Dark Souls style combat. And yes, I'm actually serious. But that's not even the weird part. The weird part is that this eventually turns into multiple roguelike game modes. And most surprisingly of all, they're all good. This whole thing is basically a distilled roguelite where you start as a scrawny loser, power up by smacking enemies and completing puzzles, and then finish 30 minutes later as Kilgore, Destroyer of Worlds. And you know what? I absolutely love it. And also, I hate that it's here, because it is yet another place with its own currencies, characters, upgrades, and rewards that I have no idea what to do with. And so my inventory now looks like a bomb went off in it. It's an endless graveyard of half-finished Warframes and weapons that I honestly don't know what to do with. Who's Ivara? I have no idea, but apparently I own a piece of her brain, so, hopefully I'll get the rest in the next 100 hours or so. But don't get me wrong, I am genuinely having a blast with Warframe. There's a very good reason I'm already 40 hours deep. But having to play with a wiki permanently open just to understand WTF is going on is probably my biggest complaint with an otherwise really fantastic game. And I say probably because I am definitely not foreshadowing anything. Oh, and speaking of fantastic, can I just say that Warframe looks great. Not because it's pushing the cutting edge in terms of visuals, it really isn't, but because it's constantly giving me weird and honestly kind of wonderful worlds to explore. It doesn't matter if you're just wandering through the void, or watching gigantic death worms duke it out, or even flying on a robo-horse through a planet that's seemingly imploded, Warframe simply refuses to be boring. Even places that should be dull and uninteresting, like a grey sci-fi facility, are packed with cool things like underwater sections, caverns, and strange bits of tech that just kept dragging me off the main path. The rewards for exploring aren't anything special, but honestly, who cares? How can you resist exploring something as cool as this? In fact, resisting is kind of a big problem I've had with Warframe in general. Almost every time I sat down for a quick mission, I ended up wasting an entire evening. And it's because grinding in Warframe isn't like farming dragons in wetlands for 6 hours hoping to get that red dragon whelp, only for it to never bloody drop. And yes, I am still bitter.
Death by meteor!
In Warframe, grinding is actually the fun part. You're not camping spawn points or searching for rare enemies. You just play the missions where the thing you want happens to drop, which is unfortunately something you will have to wiki, and you'll eventually get it. Sometimes it'll take an hour, maybe 2 if you're unlucky. But honestly, I didn't really mind that, because very little of what drops in Warframe is actually garbage. And all of that is thanks to the upgrade system. Once you get a big power up, you can reuse it forever. So once you get the basics done, you're good to go until the heat death of the universe. Or until you get bored, whichever comes first. Because of that, I never found myself dreading the grind like I do in other games. It is just so easy to go, I'll do a quick mission, and then be in and out within 15 minutes. And now it's time to talk about something a bit more serious. Something that genuinely upsets me. Warframe's monetization. Now this is a free-to-play game, so naturally there's a cash shop full of cosmetics you can buy. Now you might think that's what annoys me, but it's not. The cosmetics are expensive, but whatever, they are just cosmetics. The problems start once you decide to build a new Warframe. This requires farming all of the individual parts and the resources needed to make them. A time-consuming process, but honestly a very fun one. After that, you have to wait 12 hours for those parts to actually finish. And when that is finally done, you then get the privilege, nay, the honor of waiting another 3 days before you can actually use the damn thing. And every single step of the way, Warframe very helpfully reminds you that you can spend real money to skip all of the waiting. Or spend upwards of 20 euros to just buy the thing you want outright. I hate this. Warframe is far too good of a game to need to resort to crap like time gates and pay to skip mechanics. These are the kind of tricks I would expect from the sleaziest of the sleazy mobile games, and not from a game that has actually been really good about respecting my time. Just why? So, does that completely ruin Warframe for me? Honestly, not even close. In fact, I would happily recommend it to anyone looking for a co-op game to really sink their teeth into. When I first started Warframe, I expected to get completely buried under 13 years of content, but instead, I found myself completely hooked. I mean, sure, a lot of it could be better explained, and sooner or later you will need to crack open the wiki, but the game itself is never boring. And that's the reason why I'm already 40 hours deep and counting up. Every time I think I've seen it all, the game just reinvents itself and throws some bizarre new idea at me. And with there being more weapons and warframes to collect than stars in the night sky, I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. So yeah, Warframe is absolutely worth getting into as a brand new player. Just maybe bookmark the wiki first. Trust me when I say, you're going to need it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as that really does help me out a lot, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. Bye bye!